provided additional opportunity to them, organizing the 2 leader segments, 4 special events, more than 500 side events, around 300 of them inside of the UN building. And it was also organized New York Water Week. If you know, basically, there was the Round Blue was organized and started 1 year ago on 22nd of March on the World Water Day in Australia by very well-known runner and environment activist Mina Guli, who basically did the final marathon, 200th one in New York on that day. So, and the program of the conference also included cultural elements and many other activities within the New York Water Week, providing this opportunity to different stakeholders to be engaged. So, some facts and figures about the conference. Conference brought together more than 10,000 participants, and among of them 6,500 in-person participation. 10 delegations participated on the level of the heads of states and the governments. More than 900 member states delegations was headed by ministers, and more than 700 registered voluntary commitments in the Water Action Agenda. More than 15 delegations from international financial institutions headed by top managers, including the World Bank President and the MDG of the Asian Development Bank. And in the, there was a lot of, many basically private sector representatives attended the conference. That is really important, basically, having their commitments in the Water Action Agenda and be committed around water. And the Water Action Agenda also, in the Water Action Agenda, we have financial implication exceeding 330 billion USD, with a potential to leverage close to $1 trillion worth of services for humanity and nature. That is one of the good outcomes of this conference, and this is Water Action Agenda. So, a few words about the main findings or takeaways from this conference. First, water can connect. I already mentioned about the partnership of Tajikistan and the Netherlands, 2 countries with different culture, different geography, different economy. So we could come together to work for water for the last 2 years and brought together the world for water. So it was not easy, to be honest, at the beginning, because when you have different economic challenge, they have different water challenge and different approach and different economical opportunity. It's not easy, basically, but that is the power of water. Water can connect. In the interactive dialogues, we brought together different continents and different countries, from developed world and developing one. In each of the interactive dialogues, we had 2 co-chairs, one from the developed countries, one from the developing country. So, and the Rambulu, as I mentioned, so 200 marathons organized by Mina Guli, so running in different angles of the world. Also involved 200 million people in this campaign, and 200 representatives of 200 countries involved in that marathon. That is really power of water, which can really connect the people, culture, countries, continents. The second, as Secretary General of the UN mentioned in his opening remarks, although the conference was about water, it was water conference, but it is much beyond water. Water is not a water as a resource. Water is enabler for resolving of many challenges, including the food, energy, environment, climate, disasters, and etc. So, and the third one, our actions. So assessments show that we have to accelerate our actions. We have to quadruple our efforts and actions to achieve SDG 6 and other water-related goals. So actions need urgency, impact, and scale up. And indeed, through all the process, preparatory process and within the conference itself, the main focus was also about the follow-up mechanism. We have good commitments, we have good attraction, we have good engagement in that conference, but what is the follow-up? If you don't have the strong follow-up mechanism, it would be very complicated. That was one of the faults of the first conference in 1977 in Argentina. UNSG also highlighted in his remarks 4 key actions to accelerate the water action agenda: closing the water management gap, massively investing in water and sanitation systems, focusing on water resilience, and addressing climate change. What about transboundary water cooperation? The role of this very important theme in the conference. As I mentioned, the conference program included 5 interactive dialogues. And the themes of those dialogues had been selected very carefully through very complicated and a long process. It took more than 6 months. DESA organized, launched consultation with different stakeholders, consultation with member states, hearing from them, listening to everybody, what would be the most important topics for this conference. And indeed, fortunately, transboundary water cooperation had been selected as one of the themes of this conference. Yes, it was an interactive dialogue number 4 under the theme transboundary water for cooperation, which includes transboundary and international water cooperation, cross-sectoral cooperation, including scientific cooperation, and water across the 2030 agenda. So that dialogue held on 23rd of March in the morning and co-chaired by Senegal and Switzerland. So I think that the importance of this topic is well known for everybody, and especially for the participants of this conference, which is mostly about transboundary water cooperation in Mekong River Basin. But now, taking into account all this challenge we have been facing for the last decades, we see that the competition over access to water in the future may be the source of the tension. The case of Central Asia in 1960s, we had 8.4 thousand cubic meter per capita per year. So the water availability per capita was 8.4 thousand cubic meter. Nowadays, it is less than 2. So it reduced more than 4 times. The global indicator equals to 2.5, basically. So the competition among different countries and different sectors inside even one country could be increased in the future because of the increasing demand for water and reducing of water resources because of the climate change. A lack of governance regarding water and lack of cooperation frameworks for shared aquifers may increase the risk of tension. Some figures: only 32 countries have at least 90% of their transboundary basin area covered by operational arrangements for transboundary water cooperation, while 148 countries share groundwater resources with at least one bordering country. Only 12 countries reported having aquifer-specific arrangements in place. So the important things for the conference and for the interactive dialogue, also the strong focus to underground waters, making the invisible visible, as it was basically the theme of the last year UNESCO announced and summarized in December. I think that was really good work, I mean, in terms of making visibility of the underground waters. And water is playing a double role, of course, as a source of tension and a bridge for people, source of peace and security and stability, but legal framework are needed to make a choice. In the current realities, the conference called upon the world community to rethink the value of inaction on shared water resources. Again, the case of Central Asia, in 2017, it was assessed that lack of cooperation in Central Asia has basically the big economical impact. If the countries of the region will cooperate in better manner, they will have additional 4.5 billion USD per year. That is an economical benefit of proper and good cooperation between the countries of the region. The good thing in the conference in New York, that almost 90% of the commitments in the Water Action Agenda included a reference to shared waters, to transboundary waters. So, and three messages from those discussions: the water cooperation should be inclusive, water cooperation should be cross-sectoral, water cooperation must also be action-oriented. Some key takeaway messages from the dialogue and other transboundary related sessions, events. So first, lack of transboundary water cooperation is hindering the achievement of SDG 6, especially target 6.5, and creating risk of conflicts over dwindling water resources. Second, existing legal instruments offer tools for accelerating transboundary water cooperation and provide policy responses to emerging challenges. Third, transboundary cooperation is crucial for effective adaptation to water-related challenges, as it enables the sharing of data, costs, and benefits, and offers multiple benefits for sustainable development and climate actions. And the fourth, transboundary river cooperation model is needed to ensure the sustainable management and protection of natural habitats, biodiversity, and culture. Fifth, ethical standards and capable organizations and financial arrangements must be put in place to protect lives and environments and manage water resources in a just and fair manner for sustainable development. Mutual benefit sharing is the first driver for transboundary cooperation, with reciprocity being crucial for stable cooperation. Goodwill, trust, and agility are essential for the success of the cooperation model, which is a complex system. And the last is cross-sectoral cooperation, such as the cooperation on public health during the pandemics, highlight the importance of the science policy interface and international collaboration in detecting and managing risks related to shared resources. And four key recommendations by co-chairs of the Interactive Dialogue number 4, highlighted by them in the closing ceremony of the conference. Number 1 is strengthen cooperation on transboundary level is a key prerequisite for addressing water-related challenges for sustainable development, regional integration, and lasting peace and security. Number 2, strengthening river basin, lake and aquifer organization, and supporting their mandate for integrated, inclusive, sustainable management of water resources, fostering information exchange of experiences and best practices with more attention paid to transboundary aquifers. Number 3, accelerate the establishment of cooperation agreements where they don't exist and strengthen existing ones in tackling growing challenge through the principles of international law and 2 conventions of the UN on water. And number 4 is increasing financing for transboundary cooperation by mobilizing public and private financing and innovative financing model. So I see that the aim of this conference here also is in line with the key recommendations of the conference in New York, and synergizing the aims of these conferences and integrating the outcomes of the conference in your agenda on the regional level in every basins of the world, transboundary basins of the world, will be very beneficial in terms of the implementation of those commitments from that conference, and inspiring the member states and members of the river basin organizations to work in this regard. And about the follow-up mechanism, as I mentioned, so that is the most important and challenging, I have to say, work for us, co-hosts, and the whole community. We built momentum, basically, with this conference. But we have to keep this momentum and to follow up, to have success with implementation of those commitments which the global community took for the conference. So some key findings as outcomes of the conference. So the global water cycle must be recognized as a global common good. Integrated water and climate policy at national and global levels by 2030 should be put in our agendas. And the global water information system to support water, climate, and land management by 2030 should be established. So we need redefined financial principles to make our economies water, climate, land, ecosystem smart and people-centric. Inclusive, comprehensive transboundary agreements to support countries of all countries, and coherent and integrated platforms for follow-up. So many countries in the final interactive dialogues and in the closing ceremony of the conference mentioned about the need for regular meetings of the UN. So there was a suggestion from President of Tajikistan to host the next UN Water Conference in 2028 at the end of the water decade in Dushanbe. There was also a suggestion to have this kind of intergovernmental meetings with involvement of the UN system at the UN level every 2-3 years. So we are looking forward now and the decision in this regard. So our missions to New York working on that. So appointment of the UN Special Envoy on Water. There was a letter signed by around 150 countries in New York requesting the Secretary General of the UN to appoint the UN Special Envoy, who could help in terms of advertising of the water agenda and also integrating the water agenda in the other processes. And call for reforms of water governance structure at the UN level, strengthening the UN water, creating the special unit or division, playing the role of the Secretariat for the Special Envoy, and etc. So, and there is a need that water action agenda gets a concrete follow-up in the next 3 main summits, UN summits. It's a SDG summit in September this year, the Summit of the Future next year, and the World Social Summit in 2025, and through the annual HLPF COPs on the climate, biodiversity, and etc., and other UN processes, and the Dushanbe water process. So the conference summary is being prepared now by President of the General Assembly and will be published soon, basically, which will cover all these key recommendations and messages from the conference in New York. So again, about the next steps and the follow-up mechanism. When we are talking about the follow-up mechanism, the conference was about the midterm review of the water decade, which will be ended by 2028. We were talking a lot about our goals and achievements by 2030, but we have to look beyond 2030, because in 2030, we will not stop, of course. There will be new global agenda for the world community, and water deserves to have basically very key, important place in that agenda. That's why His Excellency Mr. Emmanuel Ramon, at the closing ceremony of the conference, mentioned that there is a need for new water vision that will reflect the prospects for the development of water resources for the period after 2030, which in its turn will help to reinforce the role of freshwater resources in the next global agenda. He also mentioned and suggested or offered the Dushanbe water process as one of the major part of the follow-up mechanism for this conference in New York. So that is shortly about the conference and the focus of the conference to transboundary water cooperation. I thank you very much for your attention and kindly invite you to stay united for water and committed for action. Thank you very much. Kob Jai Lai Lai.